You and love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
Hey, welcome to WBGR Sports Network and the Tom the Bomb Sports Talk Show. And this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. If you don't think it's a great day, just try missing one. And we, L-O-V-E, love sports. On the Tom the Bomb Show, I'm your host, Tommy Wood. And we got another fantastic show for you today. Listen, Happy New Year. We thank God for the new thing that he's doing in 2022 for each and every one of us. Look, if you guys want to give us a shout out, this is a live show. The number here is 301-429-9247. Again, that's 301-429-9247. Hey, there's no trivia today, no poll questions as well. But look, hey, I'm still excited about launching the Tom the Bomb Sports Travel and Entertainment website. We're going to show you how to travel better and pay less for cruises, air travels, hotels, rental cars, themed destinations like Disney, Carnival, and Viking cruises with the guaranteed best rates. Golf getaways around the world in less than 80 days. Maybe you was lucky enough to be at the Masters last week. The best seats at your favorite concerts, Broadway shows, etc. And of course, big events like the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the NBA Finals. How about NASCAR or Wimbledon? We got you covered from A to Z on all your vacation needs. Sports and entertainment travel to your heart's desire. We're going to be sending out information on it, but for those who just can't wait, you can go to tommywood.intellitravel.com right now. If you've got to book any kind of a travel, hotel, rental car, vacation, entertainment, or sporting event right now. So listen, let's get right into it. The Final Four is no more. We have an NCAA champion, and that would be Rock Chalk Jayhawk. The Kansas Jayhawks win the national championship. Kansas overcomes a 15-point halftime deficit against North Carolina to win their fourth national championship. After trailing by 15 points at halftime, number one seed Kansas rallied back with an impressive second half. Felix, it was an impressive second half to beat number 8 seed North Carolina 72-69 to win. The Jayhawks' fourth national championship and second of Coach Bill Self's tenure since joining Kansas since the 2008 championship squad. I believe that was Danny and the Miracles, if I'm not mistaken. Listen, the Jayhawks offense came alive as they scored 47 points after halftime, with the starting forward David McCormick scoring the team's final 4 points, including the go-ahead bucket to make it 70-69. McCormick finished with a team-high 15 points, tied with Jalen Wilson. McCormick also had 10 rebounds, and Christian Braun had 12 points and 12 rebounds. Remy Martin, not a drink, that's actually the kid's name. Remy Martin was key in the second half with 11 second half key buckets down the stretch. The Jayhawks staged the largest comeback in NCAA championship game history. So, if we can just go back to what we talked about last week, because Tom the Bomb was right on the money with this, and when I told you guys that that Kansas was going to win the national championship, he was right on the money on this one. So, like I said, remember one of the key points we talked about was number one, Kansas hadn't allowed any team to control the final chapter, the fourth quarter. Rock Chalk Jayhawks cutting down the nets. Like I said, I looked for UNC to have a letdown, but they really didn't have a letdown. I was really, really impressed with North Carolina, especially with Bacot being hurt, whether he was going to be 100%. For him to have that bad wheel, he played phenomenal in that game. It was a Herculean effort that he put forward. But like I said last week, I believed that Kansas defense was going to be the difference in the game. And in the second half, they just clamped down and shut them boys down. Now, one of the big keys, which I mentioned last week, was, and this was really key. If you guys remember, I told you guys that Kansas could shoot poorly and play bad and still win the game, where North Carolina didn't. North Carolina was going to have to play great to win this game, and that's exactly what happened. Kansas didn't play well. As a matter of fact, the first half coaching effort by Bill Self I thought was horrible. Hubert Davis flat out coached Bill Self in the first half. It was a terrible game plan. It seemed to me that he went with the same game plan that they had against Villanova. But listen, North Carolina is way bigger and stronger than Villanova, and McCormick and the boys were able to bully Villanova, but they couldn't bully Carolina. Carolina brought it in the first half, and I thought it was just a terrible, terrible coaching philosophy in the first half by Bill Self. But hey, they went into halftime, and McCormick, who just has turned into the leader down the stretch, he was hyped. He was like, "Look, man, we 15 down. We ain't never been here. Let's go get it." And they pumped each other up, and they came back and they took it. I thought it was interesting. I didn't realize that when Bacot got hurt in the national championship game, that the floor had collapsed up under him. That was interesting. That was something I don't think we'd ever seen. Matter of fact, you kind of missed it with the naked eye, but I think the next day when they did the slow-mo and everything, I think they showed where the floor kind of collapsed below him, which is really, really a bummer because I think once he went out of the game, you could see Kansas big men really, really assert themselves because that Bacot was just a rebounding machine. It was an exciting game. In the past, the Jayhawks have kind of sputtered, or can I say they kind of choked in the past. But man, they stepped up. Their big guys came. They played. Man, I love it because they won the national championship. Now they tried to give it back at the end with that kid stepping out of bounds. I can't believe that play, man. Man, it's funny when you get in these big pressure games like this, man. Some people are thinking and reacting. Some people just playing. And, it's 4 seconds. You're up. All you got to do is inbound the ball. They got to foul you. I don't know what the kid was running for, when he stepped out of bounds. All you got to do is catch the ball and stop. They got to foul you. You got to go to the line. You make your free throws. You're national champions. And luckily, it worked out for the Kansas Jayhawks. But the fact that the North Carolina actually had a chance to tie that game up at the end with a 3, that really kind of bothered me. But they're kids. They're kids. They're gonna do things. He was a freshman. And they're just gonna do things that are just questionable. And that was just really, really a bad deal. But hey, Jayhawks weathered the storm, and my man Tony Berry's Kansas Jayhawks cut down the Nets. I know TB is partying in heaven, man. That's my guy. I know he was. It's funny because when he was here, for fun, I used to like to go against him just because we went against each other in everything. But hey, man, hey, what can I say, man? I'm a Jayhawk fan now, man. I got to root for my guy, man. That's my guy TB, and man, he loved Kansas. He loved Kansas football. He loved Kansas basketball. He loved Kansas everything. So that's just a shout out to Rock Chalk Jayhawk, my main man, Everett, Anthony, Tony Berry. I know you grinning all up in heaven. I know it. Hey, listen, in other college news, the rumor mill is that Coach K is considering postponing retirement and coming back for a season number 43 for the Duke Blue Devils. Look, Duke has the #1 recruiting class in America that's coming up for this upcoming season. And he's considering pulling a Tom Brady. Now, huge mistake. Huge mistake. Dude, you cannot do this, man. Look, Coach K is a polarizing figure. There's people that love him. There's plenty of people that hate him. Listen, by the way, if you guys haven't seen Bomani Jones' new show on HBO, that's the best sport program on TV. He is straight up cutthroat. And a couple of weeks ago, he basically cut down Coach K, talking about how America, all of America is glad to see Coach K go. But I'm going to tell you something. If he actually tries to come back for another season after a whole year of farewell tours, and you're going to come back just because you lost your last 2 games to North Carolina. I know it's a bitter pill. Man. Man, if you don't understand those 8 miles between Duke and UNC, that's a serious thing, man. They're going to, UNC got the bragging rights, pretty much forever now, But you can't, Coach K can't come back. If he comes back, that's just going to be such a big mistake. Number one, you've already handpicked Shire to be the head coach. And a lot of people thought that was questionable. But, Coach K having the clout that he has, he was going to pick his successor. A lot of people thought it should have been Tommy Amaker, who's the head coach at Harvard, who, of course, was a famous Duke point guard. James is an assistant. He's been there way longer than Shire. And obviously they passed him over, and he's leaving to go to coach at Louisville. But Shire went out, and in his first season as the Duke head coach, he's brought in the #1 recruiting class in America to Duke. And those guys are coming. And one of the reasons Coach K himself said this was, one of the reasons I want to do this is because we want the recruits to know who they're coming in to play for. Now, of course, any recruit probably would want to play for Coach K. But these are Shire guys, and if he undercuts Shire and come back for another year, that's not going to be good. I think people will hate him even more. And I personally think that Coach K is way too smart for this. I think he's way. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to lean toward his way. That there's no way that Coach K makes it. This would be a monumental mistake for him to come back to Duke another year after we just spent a whole year giving him a farewell tour, people giving him his flowers. People who don't even really like him, they respect him. So because they have respect for him, they honor the man, because not only is he maybe one of the best college coaches of all time, he could just be one of the best coaches because he's coached a lot of guys in the NBA, being the U.S. Olympic basketball coach. So to me, this would really seriously tarnish his legacy if he decides to come back to Duke for another year. Don't do it, Benny. It's suicide. Don't do it, Coach K. It's suicide. So let's just hope he doesn't make that mistake. Hey, moving on to big sports this week. This is just my favorite time of the year. We're going to be talking about Major League Opening Day, but let's get to the meat and potatoes. It was Masters Week, and Scottie Scheffler wins the 2022 Masters. Scheffler became the 5th golfer to enter Augusta National ranked #1 and win the Masters, joining Ian Woosnam, who did it in 1991. Fred Couples, one of my favorite golfers, did it in 1992. The legend, the myth, the man, Tiger won it in 01 and 02. And Dustin Johnson just did it recently in 2020. Scheffler dominated the final rounds with superb ball striking and a sense of calm, like a 10-year veteran of Augusta National instead of his 3rd or 4th time. I mean, that guy handled that course, but this guy is in fuego hot. The victory was his 4th on the PGA Tour this season, making him the first golfer since Arnold Palmer in 1960, and only the 2nd ever to win as many events, and including the Masters, in that span of time to begin. How hot is Scottie Scheffler? How hot is he? Scottie Scheffler has won 4 PGA tournaments, including a major, the Masters, in 57 days. Okay, all right, okay. Now for my golf friends out there, look, let that marinate. Let that sit for a second. In 57 days, this guy's won 4 tournaments, and 1 being a major. That's in fuego hot. Man, you'll get singed standing next to this guy. Man, his game is just on. He's driving it like nobody else is driving. He's piercing his irons the way Tiger used to do. And his short game. Man, I'm trying to figure out where this short game came from. I knew this guy was a good golfer, but I didn't know this guy had the short game and the touch that he's displaying, not just at Augusta, but man, when you win 4 in a row, man, you know the old saying, you drive for show and you putt for dough. And when we start talking about the PGA Tour players, the only thing that really differentiates the Tour pros is the putting. That's it. It's just the putting, because they're all pros. They can all drive it. They can all move it left to right. They can all hit it high and low. They can all hit their irons. They can all skip it in. They can all, but they can't all putt. That's just it. You go to putt. That's all it really comes out. And they can't all putt. Case in point, I thought I wasn't gonna go here, but case in point, my man Tony Finau. Man. Tony. Tony Finau reminds me of Garcia and Vijay Singh. Garcia and Vijay Singh are 2 of the best golfers I've ever seen in my life from tee to green. But when they get to the green, they can't get the ball in the hole. Tony Finau can't get the ball in the hole. When you're better at putting from far away than close in, that's a mental issue, and he's he's good on the 20 footers and 15 footers, but you give him 3 feet, man, he'd rather face a cobra, and so that's my man Tony Finau. Harold Varner showed up. This was his first time at the Masters. My wife reminded me of. I didn't even realize it was his first trip to Augusta. But for his first time, we got to give him a pass. He did well for his first time, better than what Tony Finau did. Rory McIlroy. Let's bring up Rory. Rory McIlroy fired an 8 under par 64, matching the lowest Sunday round in Masters history. Come on now, wait a minute. Come on, they've been playing the Masters for a long time, man. This guy shot the lowest round on Sunday in Masters history. And let me tell you something. This course played hard. This course played difficult. The wet rain, the cold. I think one day you've never even got into the 60s, and that's never an issue when you're at Augusta National in Georgia this time of year. And for him to come out on that the golf course tore these pros up this week. And for Rory to pull a 64 out of his hat, I've been saying this for a while. You got all these guys are top golfers, but here's the thing: if everybody is on their A game, nobody can beat Rory. When Rory is on his A game, he's as good as Tiger was when Tiger was in his prime. How often are we on our A game? But Sunday. That 64 on Sunday, that lets you know when he's on his A game, can't nobody touch him. He blows everybody away if he's on his A game, and all it really comes down to is if he's making putts. And 64 on Sunday, guess what? Rory was making putts, and he was chipping it in on 18. That was a fantastic shot. Let's get to the man, the myth, the legend, Tiger Woods. An aching Tiger. Tiger says, I'm just thankful just to finish the Masters. And that just pretty much had to be the sentiment for the whole week. Everybody was just thrilled and happy to see Tiger. Tiger dragged himself up and down Augusta National again on Sunday. 72 holes in 4 days with the pain etched all across his face that was undeniable. He was done. He was finished. It was a Herculean performance by the greatest golfer of all time. We won't see Tiger again, and probably until the British Open in July. I don't think he's going to make the PGA next month at Southern Hills in Oklahoma. Make no mistake about it, Tiger is hurting tremendously. And just for him to finish that tournament at Augusta, and like I mentioned to you guys last week, you can't really see it on TV, but Augusta National is one of the most difficult golf courses in the world to walk. I mean, it's just so hilly. And then with the weather being wet and soft, that just made it even harder for him. And, Dr. Wood was talking about how she was noticing his gait as he was coming up the fairway at 18. He was doing all he could just to get it in. And that's one of the greatest efforts I've ever seen from Tiger Woods. And he himself said, well, considering that I didn't win, he said it's the best performance I had in a tournament that I didn't win. But, we saw him do that in '08 at the U.S. Open when he basically won the U.S. Open on a broken leg. So, man, this guy, mind over matter. We ain't never seen anybody like him, man. And I know Jack Nicklaus has more majors than Tiger Woods. And I love Jack Nicklaus. But Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer that ever lived. It's not even close. It's not even close. If you look at the years and the amount of tournaments, Tiger's the greatest golfer I've ever seen. When you're in a sport like golf, and if you look at Tiger's career, when Tiger got married, that's when his career started to decline. And then the sport that he's in, Tiger could have waited till he was 35 or 40 years old to get married and start a family. And I think that if he'd done that, he'd already have 25 majors. But you can't go out and act like you're single when you're actually married. You can't do that, Tiger. And I think that's really, really what set him back. I think if he just stayed single for much longer, if he got married 10 years later than what he actually did, I think he would already have Jack Nicklaus' record passed up. I do. So, again, fantastic performance by Tiger Woods. We probably won't see him in the next major at the PGA, but he should be able to make it back for the Open, the British Open in July, because that's going to be at St. Andrews. And here's the thing, at this point in Tiger's career, there's certain tournaments that he can win. He can always win at Augusta because he knows that golf tournament like that golf course like the back of his hand. St. Andrews, he can win in St. Andrews because he knows how to keep it low and run it. So, at this point in his career, he's got to pick his spots, and he's better at doing that than anybody in the world. So, hopefully we'll see Tiger for the British Open, probably not for the PGA. Listen, getting back, it's 2022. It's Major League Opening Day in baseball. Hey, you see I got my Cardinal Hall of Fame jacket on. Yep, I'm a Hall of Fame fan. Yep, I'm sporting Opening Day, and there's nothing. Opening Day in St. Louis is better than anywhere in all of baseball. With the Clydesdales and the Hall of Famers, they call me and they say, Tom the Bomb, you're gonna have to wear your Hall of Fame jacket today because in honor of Opening Day. I was like, okay, I can do it. But hey, as to nobody's surprise, the LA Dodgers are the favorites. The Dodgers are loaded. Remember we talked last week that their manager came out and said, we're going to win the World Series. I ain't never in my life seen nothing like that. For a professional manager or coach to come out before the season starts and say, my team's winning the championship. The Dodgers are 5-1 favorites to win the World Series, and of course they're the favorites to win the National League West. That goes without saying. I think San Diego's going to try to have something to say about that, and the San Francisco Giants won 107 games last year, and nobody wins 107 games, and that's a fluke. So they'll have something to say about it too, but I just can't see anybody beating the Dodgers. Followed by the Astros. The Astros are 10-1 to win the World Series, and of course that makes them the favorite in the American League West, as that goes, also the Toronto Blue Jays are also 10-1 favorites odds to win the World Series. So the Blue Jays are loaded. So of course that makes the Blue Jays the top dog in the American League East. And the American League East, that's where all the thunder is, because they're followed by the Yankees, who are loaded. And Tom the Bomb's World Series preview, I'm picking the Dodgers and the Yankees, so they got the Blue Jays finishing. The experts do. The experts have the Blue Jays finishing ahead of the Yankees, which of course includes the Red Sox, and you can't come out Tampa because all they do is win. The Rays, they've got a formula that's working for them, and they've done a really good job of beating the Yankees and the Red Sox, which is what you have to do in that division. And now the Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays are loaded. The Blue Jays made some acquisitions in the offseason that just makes them a contender, and that's why they're 10-1 odds to win the World Series, which is the second best odds in all of baseball. The AL Central goes to the Chicago White Sox. I'm sure Marvelon is thrilled about that, but that's a good team in Chicago. They got a lot of good players. They got good pitching. With Tony La Russa, they got good management. That's going to be a tough team to beat. The Chicago White Sox in the American League Central. In the National League East, that's going to go to the world champions, the Atlanta Braves. Hey, they're the world champions. They're the world champions for a reason. Now, the New York Mets, I'm sorry, Mets. You guys made some really, really good moves down the stretch, bringing in some good pitching and beefing up that team. But I still don't think you got enough beef to beat the Braves. The Braves are loaded. The Braves let Freddie Freeman go to the Dodgers, which is just insane. But let me tell you something. Matt Olson, Freddie Freeman's replacement, he could be the National League MVP. This guy's going to hit more homers and more RBIs in the Atlanta Braves. He's not as good of a hitter for average as Freddie Freeman, but he's got more pop than Freddie Freeman. So the Braves aren't going to miss a beat. Remember, they won the World Series last year without their best player. And they didn't have Ozuna, and he's back. So the National League East, that's going to go to the champion Atlanta Braves. The National League Central goes to the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I'm sitting here wearing my Cardinal red, and I just said the National League Central goes to the Milwaukee Brewers. Well, that's what the so-called experts say. That ain't what Tom the Bomb said. Tom the Bomb, I strongly disagree. Tom the Bomb is going with his St. Louis Cardinals. Look, ain't I sporting it? Yep, he's going with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals look good. He's just 3 games. We're starting off with the Pirates. You enter division, you play them 19 times. We got to beat the Pirates 16 out of 19 times. We can't get them all, but we got to win 16 out of 19 from the Pirates. Hey, listen, the New York Yankees make history, naming Rachel Balkovec as the first female baseball manager of an affiliated professional baseball team as a minor league of the Tampa Tarpons. She started as a strength and conditioning coach for the St. Louis Cardinals And in November of 2019, she made history becoming the first woman to hold the position of hitting coach. So congratulations to Rachel. She put in a lot of work to get here to be an actual manager of an affiliated Major League Baseball team. That's hey, we got a Supreme Court justice, we got a female vice president. Hey, we talking women power, Congratulations to Rachel. This is really, really, really a big deal because baseball is as old school as it gets. And she talked about how people wouldn't even accept her resume because she was a woman. So she kind of just started putting a different name so her name would look like a guy so she could even get the interview. And she said a lot of teams, even still, once they saw her, they just immediately dismissed her. But somebody gave her a chance, and, she's obviously got skills. She's proved herself. So congratulations to Rachel, and congratulations to the Yankees for stepping up and making this bold move. But she's there because of her skills. She's not there because they're making a point that they're trying to hire a woman. She's there because of her skills. So congratulations to Rachel, and congratulations to the New York Yankees for making history. Hey, look, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back. We're coming back with our guests after the break. Is my guest on? Hey, whether it's erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation, we are the local specialists ready for a complimentary consultation to bring your libido back to life. Diamonds are forever, but erectile dysfunction doesn't have to be. Check out our website at www.theguysclinic.com, the premier men's clinic around the country. Hey, look, tell them Tom the Bomb sent you for a special discount. Remember, you got to say Tom the Bomb sent you for this special discount so we can get you back in the game. Hey, today's guest with us is Carneal Tony Washington. He's been a news director, a sports director. He's one of the first black announcers to host a weeknight sports talk program on KXOK Radio and a 2010 inductee to the Black Radio Hall of Fame. Carneal is an East St. Louis native, born and raised, a fellow rock warrior. Woo, woo! He attended the University of Illinois from 69 to 71, and he graduated from SIU, the Saluki. A Saluki, that's an Egyptian dog, okay? That's what that is. Majoring in mass communication, he has too many credentials to mention. From the City of Champions, let's welcome to the Tom the Bomb Show, Carneal Tony Washington. Welcome, Carneal.
Hey, it's such a pleasure being with you. I'm on the Tom the Bomb Show.
You're on the Tom the Bomb
Show. I can't believe it, but a couple of things. I had the nighttime sports show at KATZ, which started out as Sharp Talk and ended up being the Catch Sports Showcase. And something else you said, but it's been such a long time ago. Oh, yeah. SIU Edwardsville, they are known as the Cougars.
The Cougars, not the Salukis.
And the Salukis are in Carbondale.
Carbondale. Okay, all right, okay. You schooling me. So look, let's follow me on this here. Listen, let's give a brief history of East St. Louis, because we're going to be talking East St. Louis today, so I just want to clue you guys in on this. Okay, so through the 1950s, the city grew from the Industrial Revolution and suffered from the mid-century restructuring of heavy industry and railroads, which caused a widespread loss of jobs. The railroads, the meat packings, and stockyards industry were cutting back and moving jobs out of the regions, which of course led to a precipitous loss of working and middle-class jobs. The city's financial conditions deteriorated, more businesses closed, and workers left the city to seek jobs in other areas. Then the city suffered from a condition called brown fields, which is areas when environmental contamination by heavy industries have made redevelopment more difficult and expensive for the city. Now, with unemployment, of course, came more gangs like other cities with endemic problems. And by the 1960s, violence and residential mistrust adversely affected the downtown retail base and the city's income. The construction of freeways also contributed to East St. Louis' decline. They were constructed through and they broke up functioning neighborhoods and community. How do I know? Because they ran right through my neighborhood. Where Highway 64 is right now is where we used to play softball. We play softball every day in the middle of Highway 64 now. With that, that also added to the social disruption of the period. The freeways made it easier to bypass East St. Louis, easier for people to commute back and forth from suburban homes, so the wealthier people moved out to the newer housing. Checkmate. It's all over. They just couldn't offset the loss of industrial jobs due to national restructuring. So, with a population under 29,000, Carneal, how does East Boogie keep turning out megastars and consistent talent like no other area 100 times its size? How does that happen, Carneal?
That's because East St. Louis essentially is hard to kill. You see, Tom, right before they started building on 64 Interstate, there was another housing complex that was built by the city, public housing, and that faded away. Today they have an apartment complex that's standing there, and I think it's looking better than ever. But even more so than that, Tom, I wrote a blog on Facebook a few years ago, and I was talking about the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And I equated that with the fact that, the day I got up to go to school that morning, you couldn't have been any more optimistic about East St. Louis. If you didn't want to work, East St. Louis was the wrong place for you to come, because there was industry all over East St. Louis. You had a rising middle class, particularly black middle class, that were coming out of the packing houses and some of the other businesses that was growing up. And these people were talking about settling down and raising families, and they sent a lot of children to school. Well, this is what happened. Jobs started going overseas. And I equate that with Kennedy's assassination, because that night it seemed like all the wind was blown out of the sails. And it just seemed to me from there, East St. Louis took a descent into poverty. Now, I get angry when people say you don't want to go to East St. Louis, and I'm saying why? Because didn't you build the Metro links over there? Didn't you build that highway? What are you afraid of? I talked to a friend of mine, a police officer, and we were talking about Friday night. He said that was his busiest night of all, because he got more visitors doing more crazy things than the residents would ever do overall. And you think about this, on Sundays in St. Louis, you couldn't buy any liquor. So guess where they went to?
St. Louis.
They crossed that bridge. They went over into Sauget.
That's right.
They went over into East St. Louis. And at night, I remember driving down Collinsville Avenue, and I saw what might be called a really interesting sight. And I knew right away she was wearing a dress and everything, but it was not a female. And I saw the cars that were pulling up. Now, Tom, you and I have known each other for years. I know you since you were a baby, pretty much and all.
Yeah, it's National Siblings Day. Go ahead and tell it. It's National Siblings Day, big brother.
You since you were, basically you were walking around. I'm dating myself. But what I'm saying is that people that we know that live in East St. Louis, by and large, weren't interested in soliciting anybody. But they sure were doing it, and they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't profitable. So you get all those things. You talk about how bad crime is and everything like that. Let me tell you something that I think we all should know. Anytime you kill the economy, like the East St. Louis economy was left for dead, what are you going to come up with? Crime. Of course you are.
That's right.
So you sit back and say just how bad and how terrible it is and everything, but yet you have no problems coming in and building things, which brings me to another point, because I'm looking over and saying, this don't look like East St. Louis, because all I saw were white faces overall.
Well, listen,
So you add just the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cornell, you were born in the 50s, 1950s. Tell us about sports during that time era, and tell me about Robert DeLon Wood. Tell me a little bit about him.
He was a good friend, loved him dearly. We grew up as teenagers when he moved from 29th Street over into Ball Avenue. And he was playing basketball at Rock, and I was doing something. I think I was writing a story in the Crusader. I almost forgot about that. And he became really tight with another good friend of mine, Marvin Kreider, who became the first black quarterback at Washington University. Marvin moved from 8th Street out to 69th Street in East St. Louis, and Robert and I started hanging out together. And we go, play a little bit. I wasn't at his caliber as far as being an athlete, certainly not a basketball player. And I'll say this because, well, since we're talking, Robert was no stranger to the younger lady. Let's just say he knew quite a few, and I'm not going biblical that way. But I learned a lot from being around Robert, growing up still and everything. And then you had that whole thing about the war and how, some people just kind of like fantasize this like combat TV show where you come over and kill people and you got media talking all that craziness before we really had a chance to understand what was going on. We knew a good personal friend of mine, Reverend Roy McCain, who wasn't a minister at the time, but he went to Vietnam and he tried real hard to get your brother into a translator portion of the Marines, and he was just maybe like a day or so too late. And it's bothered me while I was in that school because I understood what was happening. And this all happened because Eastside decided that they wanted to bring Robert Pulliam over from Lincoln. Robert Pulliam and I played football together at Rock. And he made it known to everybody that he was not going to go to Eastside. He said he had a better chance of getting a scholarship by going to Lincoln.
That's interesting.
And he went to Lincoln. They understood, the football team, the coaches understood that probably one of the best players to come out of our class was Robert Pulliam. And what they did, they pulled some political strings, and they made it mandatory that anybody that lived north of Missouri Avenue was going to go to East Side. Anybody south of Missouri would go to Lincoln. What that did, your brother Robert went to Lincoln as well because he had the same idea as Pulliam. And he was on the varsity as a punter on the football team. And, we just figured that, he had nowhere to go but up. When he came to East Side, he was immediately put on the sophomore team. And he didn't really get along with a lot of the things that were going on, on any of those teams, which went from football, where he didn't get a chance to play basketball, and eventually it led to him deciding to drop out of school and join the Marines, which, like I said, that still bothers me to this day, because I saw so many young men in our high school telling their counselors and teachers, I'm going to call off the war. And that never really struck right with me, because I'm thinking, I don't think it's that cut and dry. I'm a pretty naive dude, even to this day. But I looked at that and say, hey, I don't know. But I know a lot of people that did, and a lot didn't come back. There were some that did, and God bless them. But, it took me a while to really get over that.
Hey, Cornell, how did growing up in East St. Louis prepare you personally and professionally?
Well, what it did, we had a lot of people that you can look up to, for strength and guidance. I'm thinking about Oscar Hughes. I'm thinking about Ted Morris, Cornelius Perry. And see, Mr. Perry did not waste any kind of, miss any kind of words with me whatsoever. He got in my collar once about a wrestling match I lost. He was that ticked off. But what it showed me was that he really cared. And let me tell you how this had an effect on me. I was sitting in a newsroom at KATZ. I had just got the job, and there were people outside the newsroom that were playing around and having fun and stuff like that. And I said, I'll go out there with them and kick it a bit. And then I thought, that's not the reason why you're here. So I stayed a little longer. I learned a little bit more about the craft, and it made me a better reporter. Now, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the influence of those individuals and several others. I think about my stepfather, the late Burtis Warren, and he did something that I will never forget. And I told him one day we were playing the sophomores in a junior varsity game. And Shelby Jordan was out there, Marvin Kreider, Larry Hayes, a bunch of guys, And my stepfather just showed up and watched us play. And he got to cheering for us, and it made me want to play so much harder. And I will never forget him for that. And that's why I would encourage, like, anybody, if you have any children at all, you support them.
Right.
Find something that they do, and you get behind them to let them know how much it's appreciated, because it will never be forgotten.
Cornel, what about...
the last time I thought... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what about professionally? Who influenced you professionally?
Professionally?
Yeah.
Oh, God, man. You're making me think. Professionally, I would have to say, I think about Doug Eason a lot. Doug Eason and Bernie Hayes, Jim Gates.
Gentleman Jim Gates.
Each in their own way, and there are several others. I think about, like, Cecil Carrier in Wichita, Kansas, and Sam Stewart. We did the nightly newscast for TV in Wichita, which was so much fun. But I was going to tell you, I was in SIU, about to complete my senior year, and I needed to do an internship. And I called up Keith Adams, who was program director at KATZ, and I asked him, and he said, you can come over, but we're not going to pay you. I said, fine. One of the best decisions I ever made. I don't know if you remember this, but that group of people, from Doug Eason to Keith Adams to Chris Hall to Lee Michaels, Scotty Lawrence, Larry O'Day, Johnny Jones, Ty Wanzan, were some of the best announcers in the country. Because you had to be that way if you were going to work at KATZ. And remember what I told you before. When I watched those guys, they would rehearse going over what they had to read. Or they would go over their sound. They would do things to make them better as announcers. And I picked up on that. Now, I think I did one commercial for them, but I was mostly a copywriter. I was glad for every second of that, because it taught me how to work with professionals.
Cornel,
that will never be forgotten.
Cornel, today it seems like apprenticeships have gone away, and the younger people today don't seem to appreciate an internship. One of the things that you said that caught my attention was an unpaid apprenticeship, an unpaid internship, and that seems to be frowned upon today. But you just talk about how valuable that was. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, what I did when I decided that I was going to be a real announcer, because the first time I walked into WPGU, I walked in on a bet. I think their program director asked me if I could do better than the guys that were on. And I said yes. I was thinking about the music as opposed to the voice. Now, in my head someplace, which somebody might think needs to be examined, I was only listening to Donnie Brooks and Jim Gates. They were the two major players as far as working, as far as like being able to deliver, like just radio station, and I started doing what I thought sounded like Jim Gates and Donnie Brooks. And everything was fine until they let me listen to the recording. And I was too embarrassed. I said, oh, I can't do this. And then, you know, I don't really know who it was, but I was persuaded to work on it. If they say you got a good voice, you just have to work on it. Even when I first interviewed with Keith Adams, he had an opening at KATZ, and he was nice to sit down with me. And he was frank. He said, hey, you need a lot of work. He says, but this is what I do. Now, Keith Adams has a speech impediment. You would never know it when you listen to him. And see, I've been sort of like a student, so to speak, of listening to people. And that comes from growing up listening to the St. Louis Cardinals, from Harry Carey, Jack Buck, Joe Garagiola, Jerry Gross, Vin Scully, Bob Prince, people like that. And what I noticed is some of the all-time greatest announcers had impediments. Doc Peters from Mississippi had an impediment. James Earl Jones, the voice of God. I think Morgan Freeman even had them. What I would do, I would take a old tape recorder that was broken, you know, the glass window wouldn't even close, but it recorded. And I would take magazines from Essence and Ebony and wherever I could find something. If I was going to do like a fake newscast, and I did it every day.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
worked every day.
That's awesome.
Well, that's how you become better. And even after that, I remember a good friend of mine, Mark Myers, whose brother is Joel Myers, like announcer extraordinaire. I think he's doing the Pelican games. And Mark listened to me, and Mark told me what I didn't want to hear. You need a lot of work. And I didn't like what he said, but I went back with my recorder, and I kept going. And sooner than later, I began to start to understand things. Also, I worked at WPGU in Florissant Valley because I needed to take a radio course, and nobody at SIU would accept me to take their course. But I found out Penn Valley was having one. I took the course. It helped me graduate. The one thing that was passed on to me was an NBC Handbook of Pronunciation, and it became my Bible.
That's awesome.
Whenever I wanted to look up a word, I went to the handbook. It's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because I began to learn how to really pronounce words.
Well, listen, Cornell.
I mean, you know. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, I want to cover this point because we need to get here and move on in the show.
Okay.
We've been doing some research. We're talking about the city today, and I want you to just listen to this, and I want to get your thoughts. And I'm going to ask you a question at the end. Okay. So listen, East St. Louis.
Okay.
East St. Louis is set to experience a massive shift with Howard Hughes III $800 million development plan, according to the Chicago Journal. Now, 31-year-old real estate developer Howard Hughes III, who's supposed to develop and change the face of East St. Louis. Now, check this out. It's an $800 million master plan, which will cover 3 important phases in development. With this plan, East St. Louis will gain 25 to 50 new homes and 2 hotels. Now, the development of the CBD, the Central Business District, to add more shops, restaurants, downtown lofts, and various entertainment facilities. In addition, the most treasured parcel of land in East St. Louis, of course, is the riverfront. And that will receive a facelift as well. Hughes will bring his team of builders, including Clay Coat, HBD, and others, to develop East St. Louis into the city of its citizens' dreams. Once completed, East St. Louis will become the first city, predominantly African-American urban community, to enjoy a complete upgrade into a modern city. Now, the development will turn East St. Louis into a smart city with remarkable features like citywide internet, solar farms, solar homes, and green and renewable energy supply. The move will create employment opportunity for thousands of people and help America benefit through taxes from the numerous businesses that have sprung up from these developments. Howard Hughes III says, choosing East St. Louis is a no-brainer because of the huge potential and that his vision aligns perfectly with what is obtainable. The city is a blank canvas, Hughes said. It has outstanding views of downtown St. Louis and the Arch while being less than 3 minutes away. This is prime real estate, and the citizens of East St. Louis have been waiting for something of this magnitude. Howard Hughes goes on to say, I'm just thankful I'm in a position to spearhead this large development. I want this city to win, he says. He foresees a lot of good things ranging from quality education to jobs, good roads, safe homes, and general comfort for everyone who has made the city their home. So for you guys out there, Town of Bomb Pamphlet, especially in the East St. Louis area, if you want to investigate this, you can go to the website, which is howardhughesconsultant.com. So, Carneal, what is your hope for the city's future, and what do you think about this new development plan?
Hey, thank you for the heads up. By the way, I read a little bit of that article. Well, like anybody that was born in the city, you have high hopes that somebody can finally come and turn the city around. I mean, East St. Louis was so different when I was growing up. Remember, I think I told you about the optimism, about the schools. We had, 3 high schools at one time. I think there was St. Teresa's, that makes 4.
Yep.
Overall like that. Mm-hmm. Lincoln High School was going strong, and so was Eastside. We had a community, and you don't have that anymore. And that's what happens when it's gathered by the economy. I'll say the same thing that people have been telling me for most of my life. If you really want it to work, you got to ask yourself this question: how bad? How bad do you want it? Because it sounds to me like this young man has an idea. Now, his may not have the best idea, but why are you tripping over that? The important thing is that somebody is trying to make it work. Understand something else? I've lived in the city long enough to know that there are some people that won't like that at all.
Yeah.
There's something about when people prosper, there's a whole other side of jealousy that creeps in. There's a whole lot of people that have their eye on trying to see how they can do better and how it can only benefit just a few as opposed to the many. I hope that people keep that in mind as they pursue this. Other than that, hey, I'm all for that, brother. I am excited. If anybody and if anything needs a lift in life, it's East St. Louis.
Yeah.
East St. Louis sits right on the edge of the Mississippi riverfront. And many people have been hoping that it would sink right down into the Mississippi River. Here's the deal, though. They continue to buoy up. Regardless of everything that's ever happened in the city, East St. Louis is there. I look at East St. Louis, Sam, I don't know about you, but I see my ancestors. I see the people that raised me up, that took me into Macedonia Baptist Church where I got baptized. That took me into, say, the Majestic or the Harlem or the Deluxe and places like that when we had a real city. Now, I may not be around to see this go all the way through its fruition, but I'm certainly hoping so. Because I would just say 2 words: about time.
About time. Well, we know the city is definitely due for a break, and this sounds very, very promising. Some of the best news I've heard out of the city in a very, very long time. So we just hope that that people can come together and not kill this deal by trying to profit more from one person than the other, and just work together and do something that's good for the city overall. Like Mr. Hughes says, East St. Louis citizens have been waiting for something of this magnitude. Hey, listen, Carneal, I just want to thank you for joining us today. It's been fantastic catching up with you, big brother. Like I said, it's happy National Siblings Day, so I want to say hello to all my 37 siblings out there. That's not that many of us. We just stand loud when we get together. So, Carneal, I just want to thank you, man. Listen, man, you're welcome on the Tom the Bomb Show all the time. It's been a privilege, and I always like talking to you because you knew my brother Robert better than I knew him myself. I was 4 years old when Robert passed, so it's always interesting to hear what you and Lee have to say, and the guys who actually hung out and ran with Robert. So I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to having you back real soon.
Anytime, Tom. You're not just a young man to be on the go, which is what you are, up and coming. You're very, very close to me. You're like family. I look at you, I see your father, I see your brother, I see Curtis, I see a lot of the people that helped me shape my life. And I always say this, Tom, I'm not perfect, but I'm a work in progress. Hang in there with me.
Amen.
Like
All right.
St. Louis.
God bless you, Carnell. Thanks for coming on, bro.
And you as well, my good brother. Have a good day now.
All righty. Bye-bye now. All righty. Hey, listen, on a very, very sad note, the Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins Jr. died early Saturday morning after he was struck by a dump truck while he was walking on a South Florida highway. Haskins was 24 years old. Florida Highway Patrol spokesperson Lieutenant Indiana Miranda says Haskins was pronounced dead at the scene. They're not giving a whole lot of details. They said he was attempting to cross the westbound lanes on Interstate 595 when there was oncoming traffic. The thing that did catch my attention is they said it's an open traffic homicide investigation. Now, I don't know if that means the truck hit and ran. I don't know. They're just not giving a whole lot of details. But the fact that it's an open traffic homicide investigation, you know, tells you a little bit something. We don't know what he was doing out there. We don't know if his car broke down. We don't know none of the details. It's just absolutely horrible. Haskins was training in South Florida with other Steelers quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. I'm devastated and at a loss for words with the unfortunate passing of Dwayne Haskins, Steeler coach Mike Tomlin said in a statement. Dwayne was a great teammate, but even more so, a tremendous friend to so many. I am truly heartbroken. Our prayers are with his wife and his entire family during this difficult time. Haskins was selected 15th overall by the Washington Commanders in the 2019 draft after a standout season at Ohio State. So, of course, we're getting the same sentiments locally here from the Washington Commanders all the way up to Daniel Snyder and his wife. Of course, head coach Ron Rivera. You know, things didn't work out professionally here in Washington for Dwayne, which is his hometown area. He played at Bullis High School here locally, but it was never personal. Everybody had great feelings for him. They always talked about his warm smile, his enthusiasm. I remember Ben Roethlisberger saying that whenever he hit the locker room, he always brought energy and excitement. T.J. Watts talked about how good of a guy and how he positively affected the locker room. So, of course, he will be missed greatly. It's just really, 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 really sad. 24 years old. I'm sorry, that's still a baby, you know. But listen, man, tomorrow's not promised to us, man. It's not promised to us. And, you know, this life that we're living right now, it's just the preseason, you know. And, you know, all we got to do in this life is we just got to make the team. And you know, and how do you make the team? You got to confess it with your mouth and believe it in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and he rose on the third day, and you on the team of eternity, that you'll live forever, that you can pass the AK-47 test. Wherever you are watching and listening right now, if somebody came into the room with an AK-47 and just cleared everybody out, do you know where you would wake up at? Would you wake up in heaven, or would you wake up in hell? You need to know the answer to that question. You need to stop planning vacations more than you plan the rest of your life for eternity. And at 24, just like that, he's gone. So we just pray and hope that, you know, he was a believer, and that's what this life is for, man. We really just only got to pass that one test. That's the only test. That's the most important test that we're ever going to take in our lives. So here at WBGR and the Tom the Bomb Show, we extend our prayers and condolences to the Haskins family, his wife, his children, his mother, father, and his professional family, the Washington Commanders, and of course the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So Dwayne Haskins going at 24. Hey, listen, we don't have poll questions today or trivia. We want to thank our guest, Mr. Cornell Tony Washington, for coming on. Hey, listen, for a dynamic, in-depth analysis and highlights for the Washington football team and DC Sports, check out the Washington Sports Den at 2 p.m. on WBGR with my main man, Felix Bassey. Man, time flies when you're having fun. We're out of time here, but we sure do thank you for spending your time with us. Listen, may the gates of heaven open and pour an abundance of blessings down on you where there won't be room enough to contain it. Remember, if you want it, you just got to confess it with your mouth and believe it in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose on the third day, not a Thursday, just for you. Remember, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. God bless you. We'll see you on this same bat time on this same bat station. Peace. Have a good evening.
Love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.